We are live. It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast to be exact. And I'm Hudson.
And I'm Ryan.
And before we get into today's recap of Pistons versus the Brooklyn Nets, I want to give you guys a quick reminder to go and watch episode number 21. This week, we talk about the Cade Cunningham effect and what rookie players are going to play best, how Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren will accompany him next season. And also we get into the details of what draft picks will play well with Cade Cunningham as he is the face of the franchise currently. So make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get into today's recap of the Detroit Pistons versus the Brooklyn Nets. Tonight's final score was 123-108 in the Nets' favor. Tonight, the Pistons, we kind of challenged a couple games ago the Pistons' motivation. We're like, we just don't think they're mentally there. There was times tonight where there were some mental lapses. Yes, that's going to happen. That's normal. But we saw one guy in particular, and we're going to talk about a lot of guys, but RJ Hampton tonight looked hungry, and he finally kind of gave us a little bit more of a reason to maybe hold on to him in the offseason. He had 18 points in the third quarter and finished with a total of 27 points, 5 rebounds, and 9 of 15 from the field, 5 of 8 from the three-point line. So he showed, this guy can stroke it when he's really feeling it. It just depends on the night. What were some of your thoughts when watching RJ Hampton tonight?
He was finally coming into his own. Like, this is what everybody expected from him coming into the league. I mean, granted, when he came in, he was coming off an injury and he barely played overseas that season. So that's why his draft stock fell. But ever since then, everybody's like, oh, RJ Hampton, he's supposed to be the real deal. But he hasn't really done it. And that's just given his opportunities. But now in Detroit, he finally has one. And you can just tell each night out, he's getting more and more comfortable with the surroundings and his teammates that he's going to have nights like this, and I'm glad it finally happened. And honestly, without him tonight, this game wouldn't have been as close as it was, because normally that 27 points from him, it would have been maybe spread out a little bit more with Corey Joseph and Killian and even Eugene, but Eugene left early with an injury, and the word is we may not see him the last couple games, which that's going to hurt our depth the next couple. But, I mean, realistically, we have 2-ish games left, so I'm fine with that. But RJ Hampton, it just, when you were going like, oh, he's going to test his hot streak here, and he takes that shot, and you're like, oh, no, I have a feeling it's going to miss. But then he makes it, and I'm like, wow, okay, RJ Hampton. But, yeah, I loved his game tonight.
Yeah, it's really nice to see him hit his stride. He made mention of it in the press conference post-game that he understood. I had some bad shooting games. I know, I get it. But there's going to be nights like tonight where he figures it out. And it's really nice to see that, especially with a young guy like RJ, who, the Pistons don't have to keep him. He's young, so it almost makes you want to hold on to him a little bit longer. But really, right now, if you're RJ and you want to stay in Detroit, you have to put together some last-minute games like this to kind of show, hey, Troy, hey, Dwayne, I know there was a couple game stretches there where it was a little cold, but this is what I can do when the team is focused on making sure I'm a centerpiece of the offense, and make sure to keep that in mind. A duo that we saw and are happy to see, they had their second consecutive start together tonight. Jalen Duren and James Wiseman at the 4 and 5. Really, Jordan Clarkson had a good game.
Nick Claxton.
Nick Claxton had a good game. By no means did they shut him down, but they proved again tonight that even the commentators are starting to kind of come along on this duo and be like, okay, I kind of see where you're coming from. Namely, Lindsey Hunter and Grant Long really made reference of, I like these guys together. They complement each other well. Jalen Duren finished with 18 points, 8 rebounds, 9 of 11 from the field, which you know me, I'm always looking at the shot percentage. I'm always looking at those little things, and 9 of 11 from the field is very good, and I'll absolutely take that. James Wiseman with 16 points, a little light on the rebounds with 3, 5 of 10 from the field, so shooting 50% in 29 minutes. After getting our second sample from this duo, are you still holding strong on your opinion that you like these two guys together? Do you see this being the duo that starts the season next season?
Oh, definitely. There's no reason why they shouldn't be out there together, because when they do, it's more of like our opponents have to adjust, because like look at Cleveland as an example. When you have a 7-footer in Evan Mobley, and then you have a 6'11" center, pretty much 7 foot, in Jared Allen, how are you supposed to guard that? And you look at the Utah Jazz with Walker Kessler, who's 7'2", and then you have I'm blanking on his name. I'm thinking of anyways.
Lauri Markkanen.
Well, yeah, but he's at the 3. I was thinking of the 4. I can't think of his name right now. But the point is, like, these teams have size, and so you have to adjust to that. And you look like Minnesota as an example with Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns. How are you going to adjust to that? And that means you have to throw 2 bigs out there to essentially guard these other 2 bigs. But then majority of these teams don't have great size. And so it's like, how are you going to match up against a 7-footer and James Wiseman? And I'm pretty much 7-footer and Jalen Duren. How are you going to do that? But the key thing in them is they are both defensive juggernauts. Yeah, James Wiseman, when he tries, he can shoot the 3. When Jalen Duren steps out, he can take a mid-range jumper pretty easily. Like, these guys are developing their games more and more. And then, like, the fact when they were on the court together, you saw Jalen Duren pop out around like the free throw line in that area where James Wiseman stayed in the paint. And then as soon as the ball got kicked, they'd reverse. And so, like, you're getting that movement in that paint area. And how are you supposed to match up against that? So my thing is, it's the matchups. How are you going to match up against these 2 guys together on the floor together? But then at the same time, they're just great scorers. They're very efficient. And as James Wiseman is with Jalen Duren on the court, he's not looking for the ball. He's just doing his thing. Whereas with Jalen Duren not on the floor, James Wiseman is like, oh, I want the ball. So it's like, it's more of a learning curve with both of them out there, where it's like these 2 are realizing, like, this is like my buddy in this system right now. And you add Jaden Ivey in there, and you add Cade Cunningham next season. Like, that's a lethal 4 right there.
Yeah, and if I'm James, personally, just from watching every game and following the Pistons fairly closely, I'm rather play with Duren than Bagley, because we've seen Bagley take shots away from James. So if I'm James, I'm on cloud 9 about having Jalen Duren next to me. A guy like Jalen doesn't need the ball. He's willing to give it up. He had 2 assists tonight. James Wiseman also had 2. So yes, that's nothing too crazy, only 2 assists. I get it. But also that's showing that they're etching up in the right direction. You have to start somewhere. You have to start with 2 assists to be able to start getting to that 4 or 5 range and start averaging that. Because if you're averaging that and you're Jalen Duren, I mean, well, he's such a dangerous factor. So I love the duo personally. I think that's the way we're going to start out next season. I also, it might depend on who our draft pick is on, I could, say we do get Victor, say that does happen. I could, just the way we saw Bagley, we saw the front office give us Bagley and James Wiseman right away. I could see us then maybe giving us, Wiseman and Victor, or Jalen and Victor right away, and then seeing what happens with them. Really, in the end, the Pistons just really could not make shots when they needed to. Late in the stretch, around 5 minutes left in the game, the Pistons were around 11. So if they went on a little run there, they could have maybe made a push for a win. But really, our offense there was no flow to our offense tonight when we really needed it. And it really came to bite us in the butt. I wonder, Killian Hayes, 6 assists tonight, 4 points. That's a little low. his far as impacting the game wasn't really on tonight. I think that might have really been one of the reasons why we weren't able to kind of get those clutch points to kind of push for a win.
Yeah, with Kellyan though, I'm not disappointed with his overall game because he only took 8 shots. He only took 8, so that's the big like the main factor in why his stat line is the way it is. Because we saw that last night even with the Heat. He was playing very unselfishly, and that's who he is. And so he's allowing Jaden Ivey to take 22 shots. He's allowing Jalen Duren to take 11. He's allowing James Wiseman to take 10. He's allowing RJ Hampton to take 15. He's allowing Corey Joseph to take 7. Even Jared Rhoden had 5 shots. Eugene had 6 before he went out. So it's like Kellyan is the guy that he's going to be giving his teammates opportunities to do something. And he's not necessarily always going to be the one that goes, yeah, this is my turn. I'm going to take this shot. He's not like that. He's not built like that. Can he go off on his own and be a baller like that? Yeah, he can. It's easy for him. But at the same time, he'd rather be unselfish and give opportunities to others. And so when you look at his stat line tonight, the 4 points, 4 boards, 6 assists, 2 steals, and a block, that's filling up the box score. It doesn't necessarily, for me, he doesn't have to get double-digit points every night. Doesn't have to get double-digit assists every night. He's the kind of guy that just fills up each stat in the box score. It doesn't have to be like 30 points, 20 points, 15 points, or like 10 assists plus. He just is the guy that spreads out his stat line and just goes to work. And he's more of a defensive factor, if anything. And that's what that team needs. And so when you have a guy like RJ Hampton coming off the bench that allows you to get those points. But then we were also only playing with 8 guys tonight. And that really hurts when you have opportunities for other guys to shoot. And then you lose Eugene 14 minutes in. And it's like Eugene's a key guy in getting those extra buckets. So then you have RJ Hampton step up. But then Jared Rhoden played 20 minutes and only took 5 shots. Like, what is that, Jared Rhoden? I'm sorry, but and then Buddy Boeheim, that was a coach's decision. Dwayne Casey did not play him, but I'm not shocked. But like,
that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, but you could, but even there, you could have had 9 guys play, spread out the minutes between Jared Rhoden and Buddy Boeheim. Buddy Boeheim, every single game he's played in, he's pretty much scored for us. It's been ranging from 2 points to 5 points, but still, he's still scoring for us. And so it's like, it hurts that we didn't have the depth, but I don't blame Kellyan for why we didn't have pushes in late situations. You've just had Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson just fill those, and Nick Claxton fill those spots when it needed to happen.
Yeah, I think when you're the quarterback of an offense, I think you have to take somewhat of the blame when you take these tough losses. You lose by double-digit points. When you're the quarterback of the offense, yes, he has 6 assists, but you need to be able to account and take blame when you cut short. You only score 108 points in a game. It's like, you kind of want to be a little bit more than that, especially if our defense is going to allow 123. You mentioned Eugene Omoruyi. It's really unfortunate to see him get hurt after signing the new contract. You really want to see him be able to stay healthy to kind of get some momentum into the offseason. I'm interested to see if Dwayne Casey will give Buddy Boeheim the minutes, or if they're going to maybe pull up a G League guy, because right now we're kind of in an interesting situation. 2.5 games left. What do they do as far as giving people minutes? Are they just going to let Eugene sit the rest of the season? It's only 2 games. Just let him handle his high ankle sprain. That's what it's reported to be right now. And just kind of see what happens with Buddy Boeheim at, being the 8th guy off the bench, or do they bring in another G League guy?
So Bagley and Rhoden are already 2 G League guys already, and they're on the 2-way. And you can only have 2 two-way players on your roster. So they're the only 2 that are going to be playing. The only way another of our G League players comes up is if we actually sign them to a deal. And I don't think Weaver's going to do that, because why waste the money? Because Rhoden and Buddy are already on the roster. They're already on a deal with us. But what I'm saying is like Weaver's not gonna pull up a different G League player that's not on a two-way deal to sign to a
Right.
contract. He's not gonna do that. So Buddy Boeheim is gonna get those minutes. He's probably gonna get like 10 or 5 and just roll with the 9 guys. Or even tonight, eh, I doubt you'd roll with 7 guys, but I've seen crazier things happen. So, and given that we only have 2.5-ish games left, I don't see a whole roster shakeup where somebody's getting added in all of a sudden, unless that guy is like sneaky good and we could get a little bit of tape on him. But I don't think that's going to happen. So what I see happening is Buddy is going to get at least 5 minutes and just allow for guys to take more breathers and not risk any injuries. So like tonight you have Killian Hayes 35 minutes, Corey Joseph 30, RJ Hampton 34, Jalen Duren 35, James Wiseman 29, Jaden Ivey 43 minutes. So like you're gonna see these last couple games, all of our key guys getting key minutes and playing majority of the game. But that's fine because like tonight as an example, even though Jaden Ivey had that knee-to-knee contact earlier, even though that happened, he still played and he was fine. So
Yeah.
you're gonna see these guys just increase their minutes and just let them have fun with it for the last couple games.
We saw the Pistons shoot 46% from the field, which for them, I'll absolutely take that. Definitely a big help from RJ Hampton with 5 of those threes. They went 13 of 28 to the Brooklyn Nets, 39%, 17 of 43. So they looked a little bit more efficient than the Brooklyn Nets at times. I think this Nets team, which was a crucial win for them, by the way, so they didn't have to maybe fight in a play-in tournament. But they're a team that I don't think the Brooklyn Nets are going to make a very deep run in this year's playoffs. Their offense just seemed at times. I like Mikal Bridges. I think he's awesome. Won 2 national championships at Villanova. I mean, what a beast. But I just don't know if they got the right pieces to be able to make that push in the playoffs against teams like the Sixers and the Celtics. But I definitely think this Nets team is a team that the Pistons compete way better with next year, and I believe we're winning that series.
Yeah, I will say we probably will compete better given who we take in this year's draft and what moves Weaver makes this offseason because he's already said he's making moves. But I will say Brooklyn is legit. They're not going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals or anything, but they're at least going to be in the second round. And I wouldn't be, honestly, I would not be shocked if they did the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think they're going to get there,
Oh.
but I wouldn't be shocked because in the East, after the KD and Kyrie trade from Brooklyn, I don't see a whole lot of great teams really. Like here, let me get the standings up. But like there's not a lot of great teams right now in the East. So like the Nets are sitting at 6. So they would be in the play-in right now. And it all depends on what the Knicks do. The Knicks are at 5, but the Knicks they're never going to win a championship in our lifetime. The Cavaliers are going to be one of those teams that are good but not great. 76ers have a strong chance of making the Eastern Conference Finals, but it's really going to be Milwaukee and Boston being there. But
yeah, they're powerhouses.
But yeah, Brooklyn is good. They have a lot of great pieces. Like Joe Harris is legit. Spencer Dinwiddie, one of my favorite players to watch. Even though he only had the 6 points tonight, he's still good. But he had 16 assists. So that's an example of why this team is good. But yeah, next year we should be able to beat them.
And any last takeaways from you, Ryan, before we wrap up today's recap?
Ooh. I don't know. Because RJ Hampton did his thing. So that's probably my key takeaway. But I will say this. Jalen Duren and James Wiseman, you can't look down on them for only having 11 rebounds combined when you have Nick Claxton that you're having to box out. And then even you have Cam Johnson, Royce O'Neal, Day'Ron Sharp. Like, they have size in Brooklyn right now. Even without KD, they have size. And all these guys that they added at the deadline are key vets that are good and they know how to play the game. And so I'm not shocked at all that you saw James Wiseman and Jalen Duren just get out rebounded by them. So that's my takeaway.
Even Nick Claxton, I mean, he only had 7 rebounds. I mean, Jalen Duren out rebounded him. So it's like, it's only by 1, but in the end, it's like they competed with Nick Claxton. I didn't really, when watching the game, Nick, he had a great game, 26 points. Obviously, he's a real good scorer in the paint. For not being the most footwork guy, man, he knows how to get buckets. But I really felt watching the game that Jalen Duren and James could really hold their own against Nick. And typically when we play the Brooklyn Nets, Nick Claxton, he's kind of like Daniel Gafford of the Wizards. Like those guys always have our number. And of course, again, we see him put up 26 points. But to be able to compete on the boards with guys and teams like the Brooklyn Nets, that's really good to see. And yes, when you look at the stat line, like you were mentioning, Jalen Duren, James Wiseman, it's not jump out of the box score. But when you're watching the game, you see them compete. You see the energy there between those two guys. And James Wiseman looks visibly just more into the game. He seems more locked in when he's playing alongside with Jalen Duren. And they seem to push each other in the right direction. That will do it for today's Revved Up recap of the Detroit Pistons versus the Brooklyn Nets. That final score was 123-108. Before you guys leave, make sure to put on your post notifications and like and subscribe. We will see you guys in the next Revved Up recap. Peace.